So now I'm going to show you the Oseberg cradle, which is tested for cremation, but it can also be used for burial. This is the cover. Again, it's optional. It comes off very easily to reveal inside the shroud. So the cover is held on with the 6 handles. It won't blow off in the wind. The handles are made from hemp, very strong hemp, which is a very ecological fibre. And it's got the wooden insert and the felt covering, so it's really nice to handle, nice to carry, very easy. And this is the shroud inside. 3 sets of ties and the same sort of unwrapping that you have with the leaf cocoon. An outer wrap, a head pocket for viewing if you want. It's also a nice sort of enclosure, like a sleeping bag really, and the same for the feet. And an inner wrap. So multiple layers of wrapping. So you get a very smooth outline with this. And people find it very comforting. It's a soothing cradle. Rolling, yeah.
I've forgotten what we said, okay. My father died about 6 years ago now, and because of proximity to really where my mother lived, I ended up being her sort of part-time carer, which was an absolute joy. I really did enjoy it. And then last year, poor thing, she had a stroke, a major stroke, and she spent nearly 3 months in hospital. And she recovered. I used to go in and see her every single day, and she got better. Talked to her, her voice came back, but the doctors said she had to go into her home. Anyway, all of that aside, she went into her home. She was only in there for about 3 months. She was very independent. She wouldn't press her emergency button. She fell, broke her hip, went into hospital, came back out, and then she fell again, broke 3 ribs, and then slowly there was a slide downhill. And I talked to my youngest sister about burial. And originally my mother wanted to go up to the family vault in Lancashire to be with her parents. But since Dad died, she talked about my wildflower meadow, and I said, how would you fancy going in the wildflower meadow? And she said, oh, that would be a lovely idea. And she slept with my father was cremated, and she slept with my father's ashes by her bed. And so my brain was thinking, well, this is perfect, you know, bury Mum with Dad's ashes in the wildflower meadow. And I knew about Yuli and her lovely felt shrouds, and I had, in fact, I'd photographed her mother's funeral in Shagford, which was a most wonderful occasion. So I had an insight into what all this was like. And actually, all I can tell you is it was the most soothing, beautiful experience. I mean, there's a certain amount of stress to it. I took the lovely felt shroud and the crate into the care home about 5 days before Mum died, and the head of the care home was rather shocked at that. Previously, bodies had been taken out in a black body bag. Nobody had ever brought a coffin in before. But she was amenable to it. We put it in a storeroom, and then on the morning Mum died, we went through that whole process. The body was lowered into the shroud. It was tied up. We brought her out on a sack trolley. She was put into the back of my Honda. We drove home. We laid her to rest, a chapel of rest in a shepherd's hut that I hadn't finished, and then a few days later we had the most wonderful ceremony. And what was lovely for me is that my 2 boys both came up to me afterwards and said, Dad, that was just lovely. That was the word they used, lovely. And my wife came up to me and kissed me and said, do you know, that was lovely. And the beauty for me now is that Mum's down there. I planted an Everest crabapple on the grave. That came into blossom in the spring. Absolutely stunningly beautiful. It's now forming little apples, so they'll be gorgeous in the autumn. And I go down, most mornings I go down and chat to her and to walk my lovely collie. And I can't, what else can I say? I mean, it just the idea of using a woolen shroud to wrap my mother in, and me seeing the whole process, you know, I did go through the whole process, didn't trouble me at all, and bury her was just absolutely fantastic. Now, my father, this is why Lucia and I decided on this. My father had a cremation with an incredibly well-known national funeral director. It was a disaster. It was awful. I can remember the hearse arriving, and behind the hearse were two great big Mercedes limousines, empty, and I asked them, why had you brought the limousines? And they said, oh, it's all part of the package, sir. And we went to the crematorium in Whipton, and I've never forgotten this. When it came for Dad to disappear behind the curtains, it didn't work. And Lucia got really cross, and she said, got the whole family out of there. And I was the last to go, and I went and tapped Dad's coffin, and the lid was loose. And I came out and I said, I'm not even sure he was in there. It sounded terribly hollow. I'm sure he was in there. But it just left a very bad taste in our mouths. And we both said, when we knew Mum was on her way out, let's do something different for her. And it was just a joy. Simple as that. So I can't do anything else than say, you know, I recommend it. And, you know, think out of the box. Literally, think out of the coffin. You know, there are other ways of doing this, and you won't regret it, because for me, you know, here I am, you know, a few months on now, and I just feel so glad that I chose to do that rather than a cremation.
Hello, I'm Hannah. I work for Poppy's Funerals, and I just wanted to chat a little bit about the Belarus Shrouds. We are all massive fans of them at Poppy's because they're just so beautiful. We absolutely love it when families choose them because they're, you know, they are beautiful, but they're environmentally friendly. There's no plastic, there's no metal, and yeah, so we're all big fans. But I wanted to chat about my role as a funeral director and what it's like for me to when a family chooses them, because there's a couple of things that really stand out. One is that on the day of a funeral, a really important part of my job is to check, do the final checks on that person before they leave. And obviously I've got formal checks to do, but I'm also checking that they've got things with them that the family wanted, that they're wearing what they wanted, and really that they are comfortable and secure and safe. And so with the Belarus Shroud, doing that final check, it just feels really lovely because they are exactly that. They're just really comfortable, and as I tuck them in, it just feels really nice. So that's just one perspective that I have. And the other is how easy they are to carry. And obviously if you've got professional teams carrying, this isn't such an issue, but we would absolutely always encourage family to carry if that's what they wanted to do. And that's very easy for families with a shroud. It's got these lovely carrying handles. They feel really nice to hold. It feels very secure. Because you can carry at waist height, it's a natural movement. You're not having to direct people to put it on shoulders, and yeah, it's just a lovely thing for families to do if they want to do. And also, we've had instances where we've had quite difficult carries, and you know, through public areas, below deck on a very tight barge. We've had used one of the cradles for that, and it was just very easy and very natural and worked really well. So they're not just beautiful, they're just very practical, and part of the reason that we love them so much.